Welcome back to the Blue North. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about the Virginia election and also the landslide that is happening right now, the approval of the Biden administration's agenda is just abysmal. So, we'll start with the Virginia election. So, Ralph Northam is out as governor. He wasn't allowed to run for reelection because Virginia has a bylaw that states that you can't run consecutively. Like Terry McAuliffe was the governor before Ralph Northam. So he was allowed to run this time, and he did. Unfortunately for him, he did not win because he had a disastrous campaign. It was a tight race because it was a blue state. So it really was his race to lose, his election to lose. But because of what he stood for and what he was offering, uh, people just didn't buy it. They didn't want it. They didn't accept it, and they couldn't really get behind it. So Glenn Youngkin won, and he seems to have a great agenda. All he has to do to be successful is just include parents. That's all he needs to do. Because Terry McAuliffe was running on the premise that school boards didn't have to notify parents when things happened at school, like sexual assault, which happened in Loudoun County, however you pronounce that, where a transgender child, a male that represent or identifies as female, was in a female bathroom and assaulted one of the female students. And the school board was not going to notify the parents, weren't going to, because it worked against their agenda. The agenda of the um, the bathroom, like it was a few years ago where they had the if you identify as a female, you can use the female bathroom, and that kind of took a little heat, right? That was a very contentious subject, and of course, this is along that same premise, having a transgender person in the bathroom of their choice, not of their actual gender, and have something happen where there was someone else assaulted. Well, that's what happened in Loudoun County. And of course, the parents were not notified. And of course, the school was trying to hide that. And McAuliffe was kind of saying, well, this is what, this is kind of what I think is a good thing. So he was kind of pushing for the fact that, and I believe they were even trying to pass some sort of law there where the school didn't have to uh, notify parents when stuff happened at school. And that's terrifying. As a parent myself, I couldn't imagine. I have two boys, and I couldn't imagine if something happened to them in a washroom at school and then not be notified. I would be furious. I'd be at the school within seconds of being notified of that by my child when he came home. So um, the job of the school and of the elected officials is to work towards bettering our communities, work towards bettering our schools, our workplaces, everything right across the board. And if you're going to protect your agenda over the betterment of your society or your community, then you're off track. And that's what I think that the Democrats that's what really got in their way of being elected uh, in Virginia, because not only did McAuliffe want to you know protect the school from having to say when things went wrong, he thought that parents didn't really have a say. They shouldn't have a say in what their kids were taught. And of course, critical race theory comes into this. Critical race theory has become a very um, controversial subject, with people, uh, you know, being very divided on what they feel this critical race theory really represents. And myself, I'm opposed to it. I can't see that anywhere where the law that governs the United States, that's based mostly off of the Bible, could be perceived as keeping any one particular race down. And I don't think that by causing um, people to feel like they are oppressors on, like, even if it's not even intentional, you're creating an environment where one side is going to feel like they're an oppressor, and that they're somehow keeping their fellow students and friends from living their best life. There's just nothing. I don't see a positive from this. There's definitely room to talk about history, what happened, and some of the incidents that are going on within the United States and Canada. But I don't think that creating an entire criteria based on one colored being the oppressor of another. I don't think that there's a. But anyways, that's a whole debate on itself. Um, that's a whole podcast on itself. But right now, the Democrats are kind of saying, if you don't support critical race theory, then you are racist. And then they're also coming out and saying, well, we don't teach critical race theory. But they kind of do. They don't call it critical race theory, so they don't think they have to admit that it's critical race theory when it's the same premise. They're teaching the same premise, but they're just not calling it critical race theory. And therefore, they're saying, well, we found the perfect loophole, and we can teach what we want. And of course, Terry McAuliffe was right in there with saying, I don't think that the school should be dictated on what to teach the children by the parents. And of course, it became less of a political campaign and became more of a parental concern for what is going on, that we're being taken out of the equation, that our children are going to just be taught whatever the Democrat heavy school board says. And I would be appalled. I would be furious myself. And that's why the Glenn Youngkin became the governor of Virginia over Terry McAuliffe, because it became more of a parental concern, right? It was less political, like what you're going to do as far as taxes, what are you going to do? Those issues all became second to the school. And of course, because of the outcome of a Republican winning, we saw some very interesting things come from that. So on election night, MSNBC and CNN, who've had their ratings, they're bottomed out. Nobody's tuning in, and it became the highest their ratings have been in a long time, because people from the Republican side and the right side were tuning in, just like, and being really, they were sharing it with other Republican and right-leaning friends, saying, oh my gosh, the pundits and the hosts on CNN and MSNBC are losing their mind. They're acting so juvenile. You've got to go check it out. You've got to see what they're doing and saying and how they're acting, and not to be disappointed, they were witnessing people like Van Jones say that Glenn Youngkin is the Delta variant of Trumpism. Now, in 2016, when Donald Trump won, Van Jones said that it was a white lashing. Well, the problem is the Democrats and the left really use fear to try and get their agenda passed, to try and get their people elected. And in so doing, they really don't care. They're really cavalier in the fact that their reputation isn't something that they're concerned about. Because Van Jones saying it was a white lashing, well, white America doesn't outpopulate and vote in a higher number than all other groups. They can't create a president just because the white people have chosen to elect them. They don't have the populace isn't there for that. So that isn't a white lashing. Obviously, some Asians, some Hispanics, some African Americans, there's some other people that voted for Donald Trump in 2016. Same in Virginia. It's not a Delta variant of Trumpism. And he walked the comment back a tiny bit. Not, he didn't say he was sorry. He didn't say that it wasn't a very nice statement. He didn't really. He basically said, "I'm not calling human beings diseases, but you are. You're trying to use fear, and you know no boundaries because the media, the left, and it's just become what we expect from the Democrats and from the left supporters is this kind of behavior where it's like, wow, like, oh, there it is. There's that embarrassing behavior and comments that are really kind of out to the left field, right? Like just really kind of over the top. Definitely, definitely gone too far with their comments. So Glenn Youngkin's win is something of a concern for the Democrats, and that's why they're using this fear to quell this landslide that is happening, and it's going into, it'll be next year with the midterms, where the House and the Senate probably will see a switch because the agenda of the Democrats it's not being accepted. So that's what's going on. Is Van Jones, people like Cher calling all Republicans are just the Nazis, and I think Cher's her opinion bases a lot on the abortion issue. And if you go to the Democrat website, you'll see that they actually have T-shirts that are saying abortion is healthcare. Um, the Republicans are trying to defend human life. They're defending the child in the womb. They're defending the life of that child, and Cher's, like wanting to make Republicans look bad and paint them in a bad light and say that they are the Nazis is actually it couldn't be further from the truth. And perhaps Cher should do some research. Maybe Cher should sit down in front of a computer and just inform herself on what the Nazi Party actually stood for. They killed 9 million people, 6 million of them just for being Jewish, and they were against the betterment of life. They were destroying it, and it's just, it goes to show you that the left really don't pull any punches. They don't care about the outcome. They don't care about what they look like. They don't care about the perception of people looking at them, because Cher might be a very, very talented singer, and everything else that she puts her hand to. For a woman of her age, she's incredibly attractive. She's built an amazing fortune, but the problem is these people tend to think that they're more important than other people on the face of the earth, and in the Creator's eyes, in God's eyes, the beggar on the street is just as important as Cher. And I don't know if people like Cher understand that. You use your platform to better, to get people to hear your opinion, maybe to sway people to your opinion. And most people do that. A lot of people do that. But you have to realize that if you're going to do that, you should be informed, and you should use the most intelligent argument you possibly can. And by just saying, well, I'm not a Republican, so everybody that is a racist. They're Nazis. You can't just do that, and you make yourself look incredibly unintelligent and out of touch and just ridiculous in so doing. The same, like with Van Jones's comments about the using fear. Yeah, oh yeah, variant, this Delta variant that's killing people, and that's what Glenn Glenn Youngkin is this Delta variant. It's going to kill people. He's evil. He's dangerous. He's awful. He brings about negative things, and he's all versed in Trumpisms. There's a real problem in America, and it's really the left has no ability to see that they're on this destructive path, and they think that anybody that isn't for that destructive path is racist and fair game to be destroyed, and character assassinations, and just it is a very troubling trend that is going on, and I just it has to stop. It's inevitable that people will just not take it, because in the election of even Joe Biden, Van Jones and a lot of the Democrats really, like Don Lemon, they really went after the 74 million Americans that voted for Donald Trump, calling them racist and supporters of KKK and white supremacy. And in Virginia, we're seeing the same thing. We're seeing that the voters are the ones that are bearing the brunt of the assault and the insults coming from the left that lost, because they're saying that, well, yet again, white supremacy rules, and America really loves their white supremacy. They elected Winsome Sears to the lieutenant governor's position, first black person elected in Virginia, and they're saying that this is yet further proof that white supremacy is got the best, like a stronghold on America. Winsome Sears is a Marine veteran, a black woman, a very capable woman, and I think she's going to do a fantastic job as lieutenant governor. And the fact that anybody would say that because she got elected, it's a true sign of white supremacy is insane. It's insane that electing a black person would be a sign of racism. Now, in the Virginia race, the Lincoln Project, which is an anti-Trump group, they have decided that they were going to put protesters outside of Terry Youngkin's, sorry, Glenn, I keep calling him Terry Youngkin. I don't know, I kind of mixed the two of them up. But Glenn Youngkin, they outside of his tour bus, they had tiki torch holding people, white shirts, and it's a racist, they were trying to say that racists were there to support. It was a show of solidarity with the racists. They were supporting the Youngkin campaign. But the problem is they couldn't even find racists to do it. They couldn't even find real racists to go stand there. They had to pay actors, much like Vice President Harris had to pay actors to be in her video about NASA. They had to pay child actors because people just aren't supporting them. So here in Virginia, they couldn't find real racists. But if America is so racist, shouldn't there be a plethora of people ready, willing, and able to just go and support you and say, yeah, oh yeah, like you should go stand by the guy's bus that, oh yeah, we'll do that. But there was no racist to be found, so they had to invent them by getting actors. The best is they paid a black man to go and protest stand there as a racist. It's like a Dave Chappelle show, the blind racist that's black doesn't know he's black. This is what I'm talking about when the left really doesn't care how poorly they look. But to stick with that, there is the night before election in Virginia, Democrat Chris Hurst and a friend, it was a woman, when you watch the video, you'll see them. She doesn't say much. They were pulled over by the police for tampering with election sites. turning his opponent's signs over, and just kind of being destructive around these campaign sites, sorry, election sites. And they got pulled over because somebody called the police. So the officer that pulls over Chris Hurst is tapping his driver's license on the window. It's rolled down, and he's tapping it on the door, the rubber where the window goes down into the door, and he's like, what should I do here? What do you want me to say? What do you think I should do with an elected official caught tampering with campaign and election sites? And Chris Hurst is like, I don't know what you want from me. He said, this is what you were voted in to do? This is what you were elected to do, was to act like a high school child? You're supposed to be representing us. You're supposed to be working for us to be bettering our community. And the best thing you can do the night before election is tamper with the election sites. And Chris Hurst is really kind of lost for words. But then when the officer presses him, he starts to kind of be he starts to be kind of combative with his comments. He's like, well, I don't think that I need to justify to you. I was just blowing off a little steam, much like they do on the other side of the mountain, which I'm not sure if he's meaning that figuratively or if it's some sort of meaning to like the national scene. But anyway, he goes on on a bit of a thing where he says, well, like, I don't have to defend my actions to you. I don't think that by me saying anything, I'm going to better. Like, he knew that he just should just keep his mouth shut. But he kind of became a little combative in it. And the officer was like, did you know that you have a suspended license? Why are you even driving? And he's like, well, I didn't know. So the officer says, how am I supposed to vote for you? How am I supposed to go vote for you when I've witnessed this kind of behavior, tampering with your opponent's signs and tampering with the election sites, and like, how am I supposed to support that? And Hurst says, I'm sorry if I've lost your support. It doesn't sink in that behavior is not, they don't think it's poor. They think it was just, it was a little bit of a hijinks, a little bit of blowing off steam, a little bit of it was a very contested, ugly, it was ugly. I had all this pent up energy because I was angry and it was such a long campaign. It was ugly. Well, the opponent wasn't out there tampering with any of the signs. The Republican wasn't out there tampering with the election site. So he didn't feel the same pressure, or he didn't have any of the same things going on that the Democrat did. Well, the best is that Hurst lost this election. He was not reelected. So there is a little bit of karma, I guess, for his actions. But this is the problem that's going on, not just in Virginia, but everywhere. When things don't go the way that the Democrats want, it becomes an insulting, lashing out. It becomes this vile name calling, and it's just all designed to make the people that didn't vote or support the Democrat side feel like they've done wrong, that they themselves have to question the very being of them. Like, you are racist that you didn't support this. You don't support wide open abortion. You are the problem. If you don't support transgender people being in bathrooms, and if you don't support all this stuff that we're pushing, you are the problem. And it has to stop. You are allowed to have different opinions on different things. I'm not saying one side's right, one side's wrong. Everybody has an opinion. I have my opinion on abortion. I have my opinion on transgender washrooms. I have my opinion on taxes. I have my opinion on every aspect, and I'm allowed that, as is everyone else. But the problem is, the left and the cancel culture have taken the art of debate. They've taken it away from us because everybody is so fearful of saying what their opinion is, because they don't want to be canceled. They don't want to be racists. They don't want to be labeled as racist. They don't want to be. It becomes this fear, and the fear silences us from actually having debate, which would really, if you're able to call somebody on their behavior, then they're not going to be able to use the behavior, right? Like, if somebody was more apt to call Van Jones on his very, very ignorant use of words and name calling, like Delta variant and white lashing, and just and Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo and Reed and all of these other pundits and hosts, Rachel Maddow, if they were called on the very hurtful and awful and wrong, oftentimes it's not even correct information that they're using. If they were held more accountable, then they would be silenced. Because if you're not going to say truthful things, right? Like the Mueller report, it's coming out now. Like Danchenko is just charged with 5 counts of lying to the FBI and stuff like that. These people, it's starting to kind of hit the fan a little bit, because people have gone so far to one way, right? Like, oh, we're not allowed to talk. Oh my gosh, we're not allowed to say anything. Oh, we're going to get labeled. Oh, we're going to do that. It's starting to come back the other way now. So with the Russian collusion, we're seeing that it really kind of came from the Hillary campaign. Her money went into the Steele dossier. The Steele dossier, Christopher Steele hired Danchenko. Danchenko basically found dirt on Trump, but it was not substantiated with any kind of proof and was more like hearsay. So then it led to the Comey and Brennan, who are the CIA and FBI directors, allowing an investigation for 2.5 years, starting really 4 days after Trump's inauguration, and it basically had no proof, and they knew it right from the beginning. And now there's some indictments. There's some people being Hillary's lawyer, one of Hillary's lawyers, Shillman, is being indicted because he lied about who he represented when he was giving information to the FBI about on behalf of Hillary, and there's a lot of stuff that's starting to come out about this Russian collusion and who was behind it all. And I hope they get to the actual truth and the bottom of it. And if it was the Clinton campaign or somebody in the Clinton campaign or somebody on the Democrat side, then there needs to be accountability for that. Because 2.5 years, $50 million, the Mueller report, the entire insult to anybody supporting Trump and Trump himself, and treason allegations and all of that are very, very serious. And if there's no accountability on the side that created this lie in the first place, then it'll be a sad day for America. There needs to be accountability. There needs to be reckoning for that. And same with the behaviors of like Van Jones and the likes, by calling people Delta variants and just being so hurtful in their language and in their tone. We've learned, it's 2021. We've learned that you can't just say and do whatever. They want it, they say it, but then they don't do it themselves. And if that's what you're going to do, you're going to really lose your own message, because you're not practicing what you preach. If you want people to follow you and you want people to support you, then you can't be doing stuff like tampering with election signs and sites and using hurtful words whenever you lose, and coming up with stuff like, well, everybody that didn't vote for me is a racist. And they voted in a black woman in Virginia. That's further proof that they're racist. And you use the word surge for the border crisis. That's racist. There's just, it's become ridiculous that everything. If you take a breath in, that's racist. If you exhale, you're racist. It's becoming ridiculous that the left is assigning everything with being racist. But the truth is not found in reporting of like CNN and MSNBC. They're like mostly peaceful protests, and in behind them the entire city block is engulfed in flames. This is mostly peaceful. And we need to get back to credible people giving the news. We have to get back to credible sources for the information that we use to make our opinion. We have to be able to make an opinion based on truth. And if that's not happening, well, we'll just be where we are right now. And if you want to have an interesting, look at the number of Democrats that are caught doing things either unethically or whatever. If you do comparison with the Republican side, it's really, you got Swalwell, who was with Christine Fang. She was a Chinese spy. You have Thompson in Minneapolis, who was caught with a Wisconsin license and came out that there was a couple of domestic violent things in his past where he may have exposed himself to children and the girlfriend's parents at a dinner table, and like very troubling behavior. And they actually kicked him out of the Democrat Party. He's now an independent. And you have just Ralph Northam, and it was in blackface. You have just, there's a lot of troubling Chris Hurst playing with election signs and tampering with election sites. Like it's that one side really feels that they can do whatever and say whatever they want, and there shouldn't be any accountability, and there should be, because you're an adult. And not only that, you're an elected adult, or you're in a position of some, not authority, but you're in a position where even you're on a CNN and MSNBC. You're there to inform the people of what's going on in the world around us. And if we're going to be blatantly lied to, are we better off? Well, no, we're not. We need to do our own research when we hear a story, because oftentimes I know when I encounter people that are like fed by CNN and MSNBC on what they think happened, it doesn't turn out well when there's someone informed in the room. So I'm going to stay on top of all of this here at the Blue North. So stay tuned, hit that notification, and follow me along. And if you're interested in a good read, I have my own book, Decency and Deception, Encouragement for a Struggling Nation. It's available at Barnes & Noble. It's available on Amazon. So it's also available at Target and Indigo. So give that a find, give it a read, see what you say. Hit the notification, stay tuned in here. Talk to you again.